Good evening to the members of the public, council, and staff. Thank you for taking time to attend our budget public consultation, Your Budget, Your Say, a community conversation. The town of Penetanguishene is committed to ensuring our annual budget development process provides residents with opportunities for input. Following tonight's public consultation, there will be our first special committee of the whole budget meeting that will take place tonight at 7 p.m., where we will provide additional information related to the 2026 budget first draft. After a 10-minute high-level presentation, senior managers will also present a brief summary related to their respective departments, followed by a question and answer period and an opportunity to meet and speak to council and staff members in attendance one-on-one. My name is Carrie Rebier. I'm Director of Finance for the town of Penetanguishene. And I'd like to start off with the first slide regarding how did we get here to this point. Our annual budget process does start typically in June, where we presented a 2026 budget timeline, 2026 budget goals and objectives report, and council direction was given to staff to bring forward a draft 2026 budget with no more than net 3% increase. The municipal price index was calculated at 4%, and our new assessment growth was estimated at 1%. So a net increase was directed at 3%. Through the months of July and September, the budget was developed. Staff developed their departmental 3-year operating budget and their 10-year capital plan. Management team meetings were then held to refine the budget. And throughout that time frame, council also directed staff to include a 1% infrastructure levy to support the town's asset management plan. This resulted in a net increase of 4% directed to staff to bring forward this evening. And our first draft that we are presenting is currently at 3.8% for a town tax increase, approximately $541,000. The estimated overall tax bill increase, when we take into account the County of Simcoe estimate and the education provincial tax rate, is an estimate of 3.4% impact on the tax bill. Next steps in our annual budget process. After this evening's special committee of the whole budget meeting, we will have the second draft being presented at a special committee of the whole budget meeting on November 19th, and the final draft being presented on December 10th at a council meeting where we anticipate budget approval. The first slide just presents a visual in terms of the 2026 total operating budget. 2025, it was $16.3 million versus our 2026 first draft budget at $16.9 million. About half of that operating budget is for public works and roads, wastewater, and policing, followed by investments in recreation, water, and finance and corporate services, ranging from 12, 11, and 9%. Fire is at 6%. The total overall operating investment for planning and development is 4%. The library is 3%. Transit operating investment is 2%. And building and wharf come in at 1% each for a total operating budget of $16.9 million. The next slide is a visual also of the total capital budget from all funding sources. The 2025 capital budget was $9 million. And in 2026, it's slightly less at $8.2 million. 3/4 of our capital budget is invested in public works and roads. which is the highest at 38%, wastewater at 21%, and water division at 11%. In addition to that, asset management, the capital budget for 2026 is at 8%. Recreation is at 6%, transit at 5%, fire and finance and corporate services are 4% each, planning and development and library are at 1% capital investment each. The next slide is 2026 total budget, first draft from all funding sources, and compared to last year at $25.4 million, 2026 first draft budget is $25.1 million. Again, the highest investment for total operating and capital is public works and roads, followed by wastewater and then the water division. Recreation is at 10% total investment. Policing is at 9%. Finance and corporate services is at 7%. Fire and emergency services is at 6%. Transit, total investment of 3%, as well as planning and development and library, also at 3%. Overall asset management investment is 2%, and building and wharf each 1%. In terms of the 2026 total taxation budget, and as I mentioned, the total potential tax increase that we're currently at is 3.8%, or $541,000. The 3.8% is coming from the following departments, divisions. The first one being the 1% infrastructure tax levy for asset management purposes is at 1%, as well as investment into the fire department of 1%. An increase for transit of about $92,000 is 0.7% of the tax impact. Similarly, public works and roads is at 0.6% of the tax impact, or $90,000. Policing is almost $58,000 at 0.4%. Planning and development, similar at 0.4%. Recreation and community services, total potential tax impact of 0.2%, and the library 0.1%. In terms of the draft, the first draft that we're bringing forward this evening, service levels, the increases are related to maintaining service levels and the increasing costs associated with those service levels. There are some exceptions, and there's some service level impacts and increases in finance and corporate services. Senior management, when they do present their departmental summaries, they can elaborate on these service level impacts. But for finance and corporate services, it's increased voting options, increased asset management related to a 1% tax levy for infrastructure, increased fire and emergency services related to a full-time position for the Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief. Planning and development services, there's increased funding for economic development services. Transportation and environmental services, there's an increase related to preventative road maintenance and the sidewalk maintenance programs. Service level impacts for the recreation and community services section is increased senior services related to the new Seniors Active Living Center. As I mentioned, currently the municipal tax, potential tax impact is currently at 3.8%. And when you take into account the County of Simcoe at 3.5%, which is an estimate at this point, and education, we're estimating a 0% tax impact. The overall potential tax impact currently on tax bill is 3.4%, or approximately $56 per $100,000 of current value assessment. The next slide is a visual related to how your tax dollar is spent. So for every dollar that the town collects for municipal tax purposes, which excludes the county and the province for education, for every tax dollar, Public Works and Roads, 22 cents goes to Public Works and Roads investment, 21 cents to capital infrastructure, 15 cents goes towards policing costs, recreation and community services, 14 cents, finance and corporate services, 9 cents, fire protection and emergency services, 7 cents, towards the library, 4 cents, planning and development is 3 cents, along with transit at 3 cents, and municipal law enforcement at 2 cents. At the back of the room, we do have this slide up. If anybody is interested in commenting on where your tax dollar is spent, and if you'd like to see increased spending or reduced spending in any of these areas. The next slide represents the history of our tax increases, including the 2026 first draft that I just mentioned, which is currently the municipal potential tax impact is at 3.8%. And overall, including county and education, we're looking at a total tax impact of 3.4%. Historically, when you look at the 12-year average overall, the tax increase for the town, policing, county, and education has been 1.5% per year over the last 12 years. The 12-year average town tax increase for operating, capital, and policing has been 2.5% per year. In terms of the next slide, in terms of our short and long-term capital investment levels, we will be presenting later this evening at the special committee of the whole budget meeting 10-year capital plan, and staff are looking for budget approval for 2026 and 2027 capital projects. In 2026, the capital investment is $8.2 million, and in 2027, the capital investment is $11.5 million. Some of the higher priced or higher cost capital projects that are in the plan include $2.2 million to reconstruct Peel Street from Robert Street East to Brock Street, $450,000 to replace our transit bus, $1.2 million for waterfront park sanitary sewer relining, $200,000 to replace the water and wastewater SCADA network, $145,000 to replace the Charles Scott Playground. And some major capital projects in 2027 include $2.7 million to order the aerial fire truck replacement for delivery in 2030, $3 million to reconstruct and extend Lucy Street, $450,000 to replace the wastewater emergency backup generator, $500,000 to resurface the elevated water tank. Again, after the meeting, there are 2-year capital budgets for each of the sections, printed and highlighted on the walls that contain all of the capital projects that are being proposed for the 2026 and 2027 capital budgets. This slide just depicts the 10-year capital plan funding summary. So in addition to the taxation that we collect for capital investment purposes, we fund the entire capital program annually using multiple funding sources in terms of debt, development charges, donations, reserves and reserve funds that we have on hand, subsidies, grants from several different levels of government, water rates and wastewater rates that fund their particular capital projects as well. So the 10-year capital plan, staff do work on this annually and update it. And the current 10-year capital plan is $109 million over the next 10 years. That's the end of my high-level summary of where we're at with the 2026 budget, draft number 1. And I will now introduce senior managers to present a brief summary on their departmental responsibilities, service levels, and their budget. And we'll start with Kelly.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Cole. I'm the Director of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk here at the Town of Penetanguishene. And some of the services offered in the department are marriage and death registration and licensing, processing of freedom of information requests that come through, managing lottery licensing and C-gaming, legal and insurance claims, communications and technology. With the current 2026 proposed budget, service levels will be maintained. We do anticipate some revenue coming in from lottery licensing, so about approximately $20,000 in revenue. So that will assist with the exception of the provision of the use of ballots, which will be in the 2026 election. So we will have internet and telephone voting for 14 days prior to the election on October 26th, and the use of paper ballots on election day only, which is October 26th. So the revenue from lottery will hopefully help with the difference there. Good. Any questions?
Good evening. My name is Richard Renault. I'm the Director of Fire Services / Fire Chief. The services that we provide is obviously emergency response, public education, and fire prevention and public education, or fire prevention and inspections. The budget that we brought forward is mainly to address current needs and level of services. There are some minor changes. The most significant one is the transition of a full-time fire chief that is shared with the municipality of Midland to a sole fire chief for the town of Penetanguishene. That is an ask that we've brought forward. Other budgetary impacts are to address current levels of service, including training. Training has been a challenge for all municipalities across Ontario. The government has changed the requirements to be a volunteer firefighter or career firefighter. It's now required for you to be fully certified. The certification is the same, be it that you are a career or volunteer. So that has a bit of an impact on how we train our staff. To add to that, the fire college was shut down. So therefore, in order to become a certified, staff need to go to a regional training center, a private college, or have internal instructors that are certified by the fire marshal's office, which again comes at a cost. We used to be able to send firefighters to the fire college for $55 a course. Now our courses are between $750 and $1,000 per course, and they have to travel to various locations. So there's a significant impact, as you can imagine, to our budget. Another increase that we're trying to get control of is response. At the beginning of the year, we were trending like every other year increases in responses. That seems to have plateaued, but the time spent on scene is significantly longer, which creates an impact when we look at salaries. Since COVID, fire equipment has gone up significantly, And when I say significantly, between 40 and 45% in cost. Not something that anyone was able to predict or budget for. It makes it very difficult to budget for a 45% increase. Added to that, or compounding this problem, is the delay in delivery of equipment. So as Carrie had mentioned earlier, a fire truck that we wanted in 2030, traditionally we would budget for it, seek approval in the same year that we'd order it and take delivery. Now we have to seek approval 3 years in advance so that we can order it for it to be delivered in time to stay within our 20-year window. Fire trucks are valid or can be used for 20 years. Anything over 20 years, they're not viewed as fire apparatus in the eyes of the insurance company, and it negatively in fact impacts individual home fire insurances. And that's why we replace them after 20 years. We've also had some significant repairs to the fire hall, and I think we have a good grasp on that now. Now, saying that, I've talked about a lot of the negatives. I'm going to bring some forward, including revenues. What staff have done, we've applied for a lot of assistance through different grants and opportunities. Firehouse Subs gave us $35,000 for thermal imaging cameras, which means the replacement of thermal imaging cameras in the budget in future years can now be pushed out 5 to 10 years. We had a great donation from Landmark Cruise Lines last year for $5,000. The money was put towards water rescue equipment, again, pushing the need for that equipment out further, and it was subsidized by Landmark Cruise Lines. Ontario grants, we were able to get a fire protection grant for $8,600 for cancer prevention. As you know, firefighters are prone to developing cancers with a life expectancy decrease by up to 10 years. So it's one of our projects that we try to take serious and try to improve so that we don't lose our firefighters as early as we do. And this was a grant through Ontario Grants. And the Ontario government also donated or approved us for mental health training for $25,000. Again, that allows us to move the needs that we have for our members, and they're funding that. We have additional revenue requests, grants. So with the Legion, we have a $14,000 ask. We're just waiting to find out if we get approved for that, as well as emergency management grant for $50,000. I'll take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine Heighton. I'm the Director of Human Resources. The Human Resource Department, although we are not a front-facing department that deals with the public directly, we do play a key role through our staffing resources to make sure that our municipality runs smoothly and effectively. Our HR department consists of 2 staff members, myself, and an HR payroll coordinator. Some of the things that we support our staff and the organization with do include hiring and onboarding of staff, assisting our employees with any questions, concerns, and supporting a respectful and inclusive environment. We look after payroll and benefit administration, training so that our staff can grow in their positions, health and safety, including working with the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and keeping our workplaces safe, as well as supporting our employees' wellness. We also help develop policies and rules, and these policies and procedures are reflective of best practices as well as meeting regulatory or legislative requirements. And finally, we also assist the organization as a whole in strategic planning to make sure that our workforce is meeting the demands and the growth of the community. Our goal is to build a strong team that delivers high-quality services to our residents. With that, our 2026 draft budget brought forward maintains current service levels. Any questions? Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Betty. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the Town of Penetanguishene. The service areas that the Planning and Community Development Department are responsible for are related to the planning, building, and bylaw functions, as well as economic development on behalf of the town. I wanted to quickly go over what each department sort of is responsible for, as well as what the impacts to this year's budget or the 2026 budget would be, as well as a high-level overview of capital and operating budget for the department. So as you may be aware, the planning department does deal with land use planning applications under the Planning Act. We do also govern or administer the land sales or land acquisitions in most cases, as well as we do special projects as directed by council and, as I noted, economic development. The bylaw department is responsible for enforcement of municipal bylaws, education to the public, as well as liaison with third-party contractors to do property cleanups. Lastly, the building department does enforce the Ontario Building Code. They are responsible for issuing permits and conducting required inspections. So this year, the 2026 budget as being presented does not substantially change for the Planning and Community Development Department. There is intended to be little to no impact to the services that are currently being provided, with the exception of economic development services. As Carrie mentioned, there is an increase to the budget for economic development services to continue working on the partnership with the County of Simcoe. So with that in mind, some of the capital projects we have for 2026, as I might have mentioned in the past, is we do try to be a little short term in our goals. We don't have the major investment in infrastructure like the roads department or the recreation department, so we can respond quicker to community and council needs. So some of the big things being planned for 2026 is the Ojibwe Landing Visioning exercise. I think we're all very excited to hear that with the completion of the risk assessment that the Public Works Department was managing the past year or several years. We also have the pedestrian strategy that was a recommendation from the well-being the well-being and accessibility strategy. And lastly, with the continuation of the Town Dock project, we have some technical work for an EIS that's being proposed for 2026. In 2027, again, it's a continuation of the Town Dock work on branding and communications, one that we've talked about in the past around housing and preparing a housing strategy on behalf of the municipality. And probably one that I'm surprised we're at already is our 10-year official plan review will start in 2027. So it has been that long that we've had a 10-year or official plan in place. In terms of the operating expenses in the department, we've seen a decrease in the revenues from the Committee of Adjustment. I think this is a reflection of an updated zoning bylaw where we're not seen as many amount of variance application, which is good news, but that has been a change to that budget. In the bylaw department, the big change is around short-term rental licensing. Since we institute the licensing bylaw, there has been a substantial drop off on the number of STRs that are licensed, which is good news for the municipality, but the revenues because of that have dropped. And similarly, those that are licensed or those that are operating without the license, there's been fewer and fewer violators of the bylaw. So we've had less penalties applied to properties. So overall, the licensing bylaw, I would say, is working effectively, and therefore we're seeing a drop in those revenues. Lastly is the building department revenues over year, starting I think probably last year, we started to see the decrease in the revenues coming in under the building department. And we're continuing to see that this year, and I would expect that to continue into 2026. And therefore it's been impacted, as well as the updated contract with the Town of Midland for the building services that we have. That contract was increased last year. So those are the major changes to the Planning and Community Development Department budget. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Good evening. I'm Brian Murray, Director of Public Works for the Town of Penetanguishene. The Public Works Department manages and supervises a wide array of infrastructure. It includes the maintenance and infrastructure replacement of approximately 92 kilometers of roads within the municipality. It also includes the supply and maintenance and operation of approximately 59 kilometers of water main within the municipality and 47 kilometers of sanitary sewers within the town. Within those three departments, roads, water, and wastewater, we also have an administration staff that undertakes the operation and management of capital projects on an annual basis. We operate two water systems within the municipality. We have the Lepage and the Payette water systems. And we also operate and maintain two sanitary treatment facilities at Main Street and Fox Street. This year's budget, we have proposed increases to the operating budget to maintain our existing levels of service within the roads, water, and wastewater divisions. In the capital portion of the project over the next 2 years, the two projects that are largely dominating the capital program are the reconstructions of the Peel Street and Lucy Street reconstruction projects. Those projects will have a taxation, water, and wastewater component to them, which they'll require the replacement and renewal of combined sewers on those streets. Sanitary sewer rehabilitation and storm sewer installation and water main replacement. In addition to those aspects of the project, it includes the upgrading of the cross-section of the street to a full urban standard, which means curbs, gutters, and sidewalk replacement. The Peel Street reconstruction will incorporate 300 meters of road reconstruction all the way from Robert Street East to Brock Street. The Lucy Street reconstruction is a reconstruction and an extension project combined into one, which includes the reconstruction of Lucy Street from Robert East to Jeffrey and the extension of Lucy Street from Jeffrey to Edward. The other projects that we have over the next couple of years in 2026 include some equipment replacements. So we have a backhoe or a loader, front-end loader replacement in the roads division capital program. We have a lot of equipment replacements in both the water and wastewater divisions. And we also have SCADA, which is supervisory control and data acquisition, or the remote monitoring of our water and wastewater systems. We have some replacements and improvements associated with those systems as well. Be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Desjardins. I'm the Director of Recreation and Community Services with the town. And I'm happy to share an overview of the services delivered within the Recreation and Community Services Department. So within the portfolio, we look after recreation, parks, trails, the museum, the wharf, the Penetanguishene Memorial Community Center, and of course, our municipal events. The operating budget as presented maintains the same level of services. We're not recommending any changes at this time. We're cognizant of the fact that we're currently 2/3 of the way through a new recreation parks and trail strategy. So waiting for the outcome of that strategy to finalize is prudent before recommending any changes to service levels, of course. The one change that you'll see in the operating budget for 2026 is the addition of $3,000 to subsidize the operation of the new Seniors Active Living Center. We're very grateful that to the province that we were able to secure sustainable funding between the $55,000 annually provided by the province, as well as some small revenues for membership dues or fees. We'll be able to sustain that operation with the additional $3,000 in taxation. Not included in the budget is a request for some facilities support as well. Facilities management is sort of piecemealed across the municipality, and we're looking to properly centralize that within RCS through the next budget process. Within the capital budget,
many of the capital projects for 2026 taking place at the Penetanguishene Curling Club and the Penetanguishene Memorial Community Center are related to maintaining the structural integrity and functionality of those facilities until the town can further advance the plan for a new multi-use recreation center. Thankfully, we were able to secure almost $200,000 in funding for some of those projects to maintain the structural steel, put in a new chiller at the arena, as well as some new HVAC units at both facilities. Charles Scott playground replacement is on the docket for 2026 as proposed in the plan. And again, we've applied for a grant to help hopefully offset the cost of that through the province, and should know soon, hopefully, if we're successful in that endeavor. And then in 2027, we do have a significant amount of transfer to reserves that we're recommending we set aside money, that we start building our piggy banks for projects and places that we know we need to invest money in long term. So for example, we have the town dock. We know that lots of repairs are going to be needed in the future and investment. So let's start setting money aside as we continue planning the secondary plan and what's going to take place there. Of course, the MERC and some other projects. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our senior managers. That's the end of the senior management presentations on the 2026 budget draft number 1. I'd like to call up and introduce our Chief Administrative Officer, Jeff Lees, for some final comments.
Thanks, Carrie. And thanks to the senior team for speaking to the various services that we provide and what council and committee and the public can expect in our draft budget number 1. What I would say is that the budget that is being presented has been put together certainly with leadership from the leadership team, but has been well assisted by our staff and by the teams within each of our departments. I think the municipal sector is one of those sectors that touches the residents in a very forward and front-facing angle, from clean drinking water to flushing your toilets to parks, trails, bylaw enforcement, and the like. There's just so many different business units that we as a municipality are involved in, and in some cases they're not simple. They are complicated. And so, the budget being presented today is not by fluke. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours of staff putting things together and proposing what we believe to be the right budget for the community. We've touched a lot on levels of service, which each member of the team has spoke about. I think at the end of the day, that's what this is really about. We understand that the community and the residents want to know that they're getting reliable and sustainable services when they expect them, but they also want those services in a very cost-effective manner, being cognizant of the level of property taxes that our residents in our community pays. And certainly from a team perspective, we're very aware of that as well. Asset management is an important piece, and I think there's a potential for us to be a leader in that as a community. And so we view that very, very similar to that of how we plan in our residential lives for that roof replacement or the furnace replacement. And so really no different, just on a much bigger scale in a municipal environment. And so really need to ensure that we've got the funds set aside for 10 and 20 and 30 years from now, and that we're spreading those costs over the life of the assets. And just from a team perspective, I know I speak on behalf of the leadership team, but we do appreciate the work and effort that committee and council and the community puts into this budget process, as well as the staff that assist us and our team in putting this together, because it really does filter right down to the front lines and their involvement with putting the budget together. So with that, Carrie, thanks very much.
Thank you, Jeff. That ends our public consultation related to the 2026 budget draft number 1. Our special committee of the whole meeting will begin to review it in more detail at 7 o'clock. Also at the back of the room, we have set up an interactive activity where we're giving away $1 million budget bucks for you to spend on certain areas of our budget, to communicate that to council on where you would spend $1 million if you had that to spend on our budget. So with that, I'll say thank you all for attending.